From the terrible announcement to the release of the Saints Row reboot, it was a disaster that made Volition and all the people behind the project look terrible. It clearly wasn't the Saints Row that fans wanted, and even people who were new to the franchise were let down by the modernized take on the series. And while things have been silent on it for a little while, the developers have announced they're releasing a mega update to fix problems with the game, and people are roasting them because it contains no new content and they've gone weeks without fixing the title. I have a few things to show off, but before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month, or support the channel via YouTube memberships. All of the links are in the description, and of course, I do really appreciate all of the support. So, this is the thread that they decided to post, and it says, "Attention Saints, our huge November update has been submitted, and it includes over 200 fixes, improvements, and new features." So, they're saying that it has been submitted. They do go on to say that it will be launching later this month, so this is an announcement for an update, but it's 2 to 3 weeks away, which of course has upset people, but it says co-op fixes. Significant effort and testing has gone into ensuring co-op is working as intended, including connectivity, minimap issues, and proper awarding of players. Challenges and collectibles, another hot topic. These should track properly post-update and will be awarded to you retroactively if you have completed the requirements. They go on to talk about the world, how you should see more pedestrians and police, collectibles should be easier to find, and you'll be able to escape notoriety levels easier. So they're saying they're adding NPCs, and the way NPCs are going to be working are going to be different. So as you can see, they are updating some of the problems that people had. They are actually putting a little bit of effort into this game, which is good, because let's be honest, a lot of developers would have already given up on this game after all of the heat that they've taken and the drop in players that they've most likely seen. A lot of companies would have been like, okay, whatever, this was clearly a failure, we're not going to put a lot more time into it. And by this point, 3 months after release, they probably would have already dropped the game and dropped supporting it. But they are doing some things with it, which I do have to give them credit for. They talk about how they're doing UI improvements, a new voice pitch slider, and then they say, "We will of course release full patch notes alongside the update when it goes live later this month, so get comfortable because it's a big one." But unfortunately for them, even though they're talking about fixing all of these things that I'm sure active players do want fixed, a lot of people are saying it is too little too late. Now, before we actually read any comments, there are a lot of articles that have gone up about this, and I personally view this all as a desperate grasp at attention. From what I read, it has been weeks since they patched the game, meaning all of the updates just add up to this, and since they put, hundreds of fixes, it sounds big enough for journalists to write articles on it, and that means a bit more press for them. It's like they are desperate to get attention, so they decided to hold back updates just so that they could make it sound big and amazing, like, wow, they're putting so much work and effort into it. Of course, the journalists are praising them, going, wow, this is great, the update's going to be a beast, and they're so happy with what Volition's doing with the game. But consumers are not very happy about this. People are calling them out for holding back updates for the past few weeks, for not releasing new content in this update, and for just generally being pretty shitty. People are saying things like, what will happen with the story after these changes go through? The biggest issue with the game is the story. These fixes don't change writing. If the story is still the same, then this is a wasted effort. Wait, this game came out? I also made a tweet saying, I don't think anyone cares at this point. Lots of people saying things like, I love how they're trying to hype people up by telling us their game is so messed up it requires over 200 fixes. Glad I avoided this one, honestly. Used to have so much love for the series, and I did too. I have loved Saints Row for such a long time, but this game is just terrible. I don't know what they were thinking with this title. Okay, but this still isn't gonna fix the problem with the characters, the story, and the dialogue are all trash. Yeah, I mean, obviously the core elements are not going to be changing with this patch, but they could have released some kind of new content. They could have released maybe a bunch of new missions, or maybe a portion of a new area. I personally don't think they have any of that. I think whatever they created initially, they put into the game, and they were not thinking about DLC, about extra content releases. And I think that it could help them at this point if they did release that, but I just don't think that people are going to come back to this game. Honestly, I feel like they have absolutely killed this title, not just because of the content that is awful, but also because of the way that everything is played out on social media, like with the community manager, her going on social media, her calling critics terrorists, and saying we're awful people simply because we didn't like the game and we criticized it. And then, of course, she decided to hide behind the block and mute buttons on Twitter. I mean, she blocked me after I talked about her a couple of times. She is supposed to be the one who talks to consumers and who would respond on threads like this, going, yeah, we're putting in as much work as we can. We're really excited for these new updates. We hope consumers will like it. But no, she just hides behind Twitter blocks. We knew Volition would take a lot of heat after the reboot's launch, but at this point I'm starting to feel like they have completely ruined their reputation. Sometimes companies will take heat initially when their title isn't what we wanted, but usually after a couple of weeks or months, everything goes back to normal for them. The people who love it stick around, and the people who hated it leave them alone, but that is not happening here, and every post they're making is getting ratioed, and when a big update is posted, they get flooded with tweets about how lazy and ungrateful the developers are, which of course I think is hilarious, but they must be pretty upset behind the scenes that this game has turned out to be such a disaster for them. Obviously, I have covered the Saints Row reboot quite a lot on the channel, from the initial launch to the community manager drama to simple updates like this, and I just don't see a way that this game can rejuvenate itself or come back. I think people are extremely disappointed, and they're not going to forget about this anytime soon. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed it and found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.